College basketball season is just about wrapped up, so it's time to start talking about college football. And today we're going to be talking about some college football playoff sleeper teams that I have my eye on heading into the season. But before we get into it, please subscribe and like this video. I would really appreciate it. This is a YouTube channel I'm really trying to build up here. You're going to see a ton of college football content right here. Once the season gets going, obviously game picks, game previews, betting stuff. Obviously, we'll talk a ton of off-season content like this, like college football playoff sleeper teams and some other stuff from now until the season starts this fall. So excited to get into it. So let's get going. College football playoff sleeper team number one I have on my radar is the North Carolina Tar Heels. And they're probably the program that garnered the most headlines this offseason, maybe outside of Ohio State. Because they hired Bill Belichick to replace Mac Brown. So you're replacing a legend, maybe the greatest coach of all time, the greatest football coach of all time, with another legend in Bill Belichick. So, see, he's got a generous schedule in year one for North Carolina. He replaced a lot of talent. He's got the number 12 transfer class, according to 24/7 Sports. So he's replaced a lot of the guys, and he's bringing in a lot of transfer talent. So that's a key. The roster's solid. And number 12 for a transfer class, that's pretty dang good for an ACC team. We're not going to, North Carolina's not in the SEC or the Big Ten, where they're going to have to be competing with national title contenders. They're going to be going up. They're going to be competing with like the likes of Clemson, Miami, those teams in the ACC. But I mean, if you look at the schedule, they do avoid a lot of the top teams in the ACC. I don't see Miami on there. I don't see Louisville on there. I don't see SMU on there. Now, they do have a tough game to open up the season with TCU. TCU is coming to Chapel Hill, so that'll be a fun game to watch. But outside of that, man, I mean, they avoid a lot of really good teams in the ACC. Obviously, the key game, probably the most difficult game on the schedule, is Clemson, October 4th. But they do get the Tigers at home. No back-to-back road games at all. That's very fortunate for Bill Belichick in year one. In total, they do play 6 road games. Obviously, at NC State's not going to be easy. At Syracuse is not going to be easy. The trip all the way out to Cal's not going to be easy. But overall, I think this is a very generous schedule for Bill Belichick in North Carolina. If they can go 10-2 here, I think they have a shot at getting into the college football playoff. Now, it's easier said than done, but I do think there's enough talent on this team with all the transfers that they brought in to go at least 10-2. So the next team I got listed, it's kind of a popular college football playoff sleeper team, and that's the Illinois Fighting Illini. So out of the Big Ten. So Illinois, a lot of returning production. Luke Altmaier's back at quarterback. They have some of those top defensive players back, Xavier Scott, Matthew Bailey. So they got a lot of returning guys, return a lot of offensive linemen as well. And what I like about them is they know how to win those games. They went 5-1 in one-score games last season. I know the trend says usually when you have a good record in one-score games the year prior, then that next year it kind of flips. Maybe they go, 2-4 or 1-5, whatever. But to me, when you bring back a lot of those same guys, to me that shows that they know how to win close games, and I think that's going to benefit Illinois in the long run, and especially this season. And pulling up Illinois' schedule here, if you really look at it. Again, you'll see a common theme between these sleeper teams. It's the schedule's pretty generous, and you look at Illinois here. Illinois' schedule, they have one Power 4 team out of conference that's at Duke. I think that's a winnable game for Illinois. Looking at the Big Ten schedule, they play only 4 road games. They play 5 home games of the Big Ten. Those road games at Indiana, at Purdue, at Washington, at Wisconsin. So some tough games there, but not anything that's like a for sure loss. I don't see, there is Ohio State, but they do get Ohio State at home, but I don't see Oregon. I do not see Penn State. Michigan is not on the schedule because they played them last year as well. They also played Penn State last year and Oregon last year, and they still went, I believe, 9-3, if I recall correctly, even with that tough schedule last year. So, even if this team is the same, like if they perform the same way, the same amount of talent, coaching is the same, this schedule could produce bigger and better results for Illinois. So they went 9-3, 6-3 in conference last year. I only see one game where I'm like, they're for sure going to be underdogs, and that's Ohio State. Maybe at Wisconsin could be tough. At Washington will be tough. At Indiana will be tough. USC at home could be tough, but I really like this draw for Illinois. I think they can go 9-3 again at least. possibly even reach into the double-digit win category in the regular season. If they do that, I think they'd be a college football playoff contender, 100%. I mean, they were not too far out this past season. So I like Illinois as my second sleeper team. Third sleeper team out of the Big 12 here is an interesting one. Texas Tech. So the Red Raiders, Joey McGuire is their head coach. They had a little bit of taste of success. They kind of flirted with winning the Big 12 last season when 8-4, 6-3 in the conference, didn't quite make the Big 12 championship game. But I think they're really motivated in Lubbock. They acquired the number 3 transfer portal class according to 24/7 Sports. I mean, that's just outstanding for a team like Texas Tech out of the Big 12. So shout out Joey McGuire and that NIL money out there. So they're doing a lot of good things in terms of talent acquisitions. Some of those notable transfers you'll see this season. Quentin Joyner is going to be running back. Going to be the running back for them. Defensively, Romello Height is going to be a really good edge rusher. Cornerback Bryce Pollock's one to watch. But they do bring back quarterback Baron Morton for Texas Tech there. So he threw for over 3,000 yards last season. So an experienced quarterback paired with a lot of talent coming in. If things click the right way, I do think Texas Tech can win a lot of games and can win the Big 12. And as we know now, with the expanded playoff, you win the Big 12, you're in the college football playoff. So let's get to the schedule here. Let me pull that up. They do play two of the better teams, I think, who are going to be two of the better teams of the conference, both on the road. And it's Arizona State and Kansas State on October 18th and November 1st. So that's going to be two difficult games on the road for Texas Tech. They're the top two favorites in odds to win the Big 12 on FanDuel. Home games against Kansas, there's BYU there. Those two are not going to be easy. At West Virginia to end the year is not going to be easy. But what I do like is, so if Texas Tech does run the table here, they make it to the Big 12 championship game. They do have a bye week right before that last game of the season. So they go UCF, bye week at West Virginia to end the regular season. So they're probably going to be the better rested team in that Big 12 championship game if they end up making it there. And as we know, if you win the Big 12 championship game, you're going to be in the college football playoff. So Texas Tech, I think, is another sleeper team here out of the Big 12. Let's head back to the ACC. It's a team that's kind of turned some heads as of late, past couple of years or so, and it's Georgia Tech. They played Georgia really tough in that instant classic. I think that game went to like 7 or 8 overtimes. It was wild against Georgia in Athens last season. So this is a team that they're really good at competing with some of the top teams in the country. To me, it's now a matter of consistency. Can head coach Brent Key get his guys to perform on a consistent basis week in and week out, not trip up against inferior opponents? That's the biggest question here with Georgia Tech. They bring back Haynes King, and he's probably one of the top quarterbacks in the ACC. Really accurate, really big threat with his legs. Jamal Haynes is back at running back. Kyle Efford, he linebacker, neck roll. He's got the whole shebang going. He's the leading tackler last season. He is also back. And I want to highlight the schedule. So obviously in the ACC, Clemson, not going to be an easy team to beat. But that's the only team they play in the top 7 of the ACC championship odds. The only team in that top 7 of the ACC championship odds on their schedule is Clemson. Everyone else, they're theoretically on paper better than. That includes Virginia Tech, that includes Syracuse, that includes NC State, Boston College, Pitt. Now, the non-conference schedule is tough. It's not easy because they play Georgia every single season as part of that in-state rivalry game. That's the last week of the year at Mercedes-Benz Stadium there in Atlanta. At Colorado is not going to be easy to start the season out in Boulder. So, look, Georgia Tech, I think they have a really generous ACC schedule. But if they can maybe split that Colorado and Georgia Tech, the Colorado and Georgia Tech games, go 1-1 in those two, take care of business pretty much everywhere else. Maybe go 7-1 in the ACC. I think this team can make the ACC championship game, and all they would need is one upset in that ACC championship game, and they're in the college football playoff. So I think Georgia Tech's a team to watch here in terms of college football playoff sleeper teams. Now, there's one conference we really have not hit on yet, and that's the SEC. Because it's just hard to see kind of an under-the-radar type team run the table and make the playoff out of the SEC. I mean, it really is just how deep that conference is. But if there is going to be a team that does it, I think it's Florida, because I think their talent kind of matches up with some of the better teams in the conference. Not as talented as maybe Georgia or Bama, or Texas especially, but I think they can make up for in some different areas. I think they have one of the top quarterbacks in the conference, DJ Lagway. Jaden Baugh's back at running back. He's going to be one of the top running backs in the SEC. Offensive line has a fair amount of starters back as well, 4 to be exact. So, look, I think Florida's got some good pieces. Their defense was really good last year. I'm expecting them to be really good again this season. So if Lagway can progress, I think this Florida team, I think they can surprise some people. And obviously the schedule is brutal. Like, let's just be honest. At LSU, at Miami, Texas, at Texas A&M, that 4-game stretch is going to be brutal for the Florida Gators. So that's not even mentioning some of the other games like Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State at the end of the year there. So Florida's going to have to win a fair amount of these tough games. And I mean, they have no other choice then to do that if they want to make the college football playoff. So I did see them improve throughout the year last year under Billy Napier. I'm glad he's back. I think he deserves another year with Florida. And I think this is the most talented team he's got so far down in Gainesville. So we'll see about them. I wanted to do 2 honorable mentions. One is kind of shot in the dark. They're kind of my dark horse per se. Maybe, they could be like an Indiana type team where they just come out of absolutely nowhere. No one expects them to be really good, but they end up being really good. And that's the Cincinnati Bearcats. Already have their schedule pulled up, but if you look at it, they avoid some of the top teams in the Big 12, including Arizona State, including Kansas State. They do play at Kansas, which is tough, but I think a lot of these Big 12 games for them are winnable. They bring back their quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, bring back one of the top nose tackles in the country. So they have a lot of returning production, and that combined with this schedule, I think Cincinnati is a team to watch as an honorable mention here. And out of the SEC, my last honorable mention, I'm going to go Auburn. I think this team is interesting. They bring in Jackson Arnold at quarterback. It's year 3 under head coach Hugh Freeze. He's been recruiting really well, and I think this is kind of the year we're going to really start to see that talent kind of rise to the top, including Cam Coleman, who's an excellent wide receiver, probably one of the 5 best receivers in the country. They have a tough start at Baylor's not going to be easy. Then back-to-back road stretch late September at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M. Georgia's on the schedule. But they do have winnable games. Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer, Ball State, South Alabama. So there's a lot of games in here where it's like, I think they can win. I think this team can get to 8 wins. And if they pull an upset or 2, you never know. I think Auburn could be in the mix to get kind of one of those at-large college football playoff spots. So that is it. My 5 teams, college football playoff sleeper teams: North Carolina, Illinois, Texas Tech, Georgia Tech, Florida are my top 5. Shout outs to Cincinnati and Auburn. I think they could surprise some folks this season as well. So, subscribe to the channel here. Like this video. We really appreciate it if you guys subscribe and keep tuning into the content here. I'll keep churning it out. So appreciate it, guys.